Hello, everyone. Welcome to join us. This is Dr. Z again. Yes, and we're having Dr. M here. Hi, yes. And we're going to continue our conversation about computing instruction, computational thinking, AI, and what do they mean for us teaching young children, prepare them for the future. Okay. So in this episode, we're going to really talk about the role of creativity. Not only about the creativity in the process of learning, because we all know, like, when we think about one of the unique nature of human being will be, creativity. We actually can create. That's differentiate us from other, animal on the planet, right? Um, but the concept itself is pretty abstract, right? The verb create means we make something up. But creativity and how we define this, Dr. M, in this digital era, how should we define creativity in our daily life?
And so, one of the things that I get most excited about when we talk about computing as an aid for creativity, because a lot of people think of computer science as a very like technical, like rigid sort of thing. And actually, my favorite way of using computer science is to help in creativity. And so
Mm,
if you've ever heard of like maker spaces that are places where you can go and 3D print or
mm,
use a sewing machine or use a laser cutter to help actually make physical objects that you normally
mm,
wouldn't necessarily like I have a really high barrier to make those
mm,
things in real life. Well, not that maker spaces aren't real life, but I think of the same thing for computer science for digital objects. And
mm,
especially with AI, it's easier than ever to create digital objects that maybe you didn't have the skill set to create before. Like, using
mm,
Photoshop is a great skill to have, but you can
mm.
spend hours learning how to do like one thing in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And now you can ask an AI to do the same thing in Photoshop
Mm.
that it would have taken you, 3 hours
It
to figure
seems,
out how to do.
yeah, it seems to me those tools that used to be very professional and specialized tools, like Photoshop, like like it's some kind of software that only architectures use, like what's that? CAD or something, like you create this blueprint of the building. Seem used to be very professional, very specialized software. Right now, it becomes more and more accessible to everyone, right? You mentioned about Photoshop. I remember even 10 years ago, there was like a training camp for Photoshop, and they will actually give you award you a certificate. When you finish this Photoshop camp, they give you certificate, and they have different level of the certificates. But right now, it's to a point that you can even do, you know, much more better Photoshop just with the app, just with a click. I know Google just released a new photo app that it can automatically erase, the distraction in your picture or distortion in your picture to make it look like artwork, right? So with that in mind, does that mean like we also need to like expose children to this, different kind of apps in the early times?
Yeah, and I'm not sure that it's a need as much as
Uh-huh.
it opens up so many doors for them to express themselves. So,
Mm,
like there's always going to be a place for an expert Photoshop user, like a graphic designer who really knows how to use something at an expert level.
mm,
However, what these AI tools allow you to do is to come in as an amateur and
mm,
still get like a pretty intermediate result. So like there's an AI that if you start drawing something, I'm an offer drawer, but if you
mm,
start drawing something, it will sort of recognize what it thinks you're trying to draw. Like if I was trying to draw an elephant, and it would give
mm,
me a template for an elephant. So that's going to be a pretty generic elephant, but it's like for my purposes as not an artist having
mm,
like some sort of something that looks like a self-drawn elephant that would have never been accessible to me before.
Yeah,
Uh,
so when you think about this, it's more like a technical skill of creation, right? So you with those technology tool, AI tools, then we don't have to be able to like so good like at manipulating those artistic tools or pens, color of pens. We actually can with the technical help from the AI, we can have something there. Um, but it seems to me like it's just a part of the creation because you have this technical part supported by AI, but the part that really make it unique to you personally is how you, based on whatever created or whatever generated by the technology, how you can add the personal touch on it, right? Just like when you say you probably can have this group activity with children in the classroom where computer or technology can help the children create an elephant first, right? But it really also is our job or teach adults' job, not only teacher but also parent, to prompt children think about like what is the unique part of your elephant? Is it the size of it? Is the color of it? Or is the length of trunk? Or the skin color or the patterns that make your elephant unique from others, right? So it seems like the we still humans still play a essential role in creating something.
yeah, and I think that's a good framework for it, like because children are sort of amateurs at all of these skills that they're developing. And
Yeah.
so if we can help them get access to a skill that maybe they thought was, inaccessible before. Like,
hmm
I'm not good at taking photos or I'm not good at drawing, so I'm not going to ever create anything that requires a photo or drawing or anything. It can get
hmm
them to that place where they have sort of a template. And then, like you said, they can, you know, individualize it and make it their own, using their own sort of creative techniques.
Yeah, I think it really helped for especially children with special need in the early time because there was research showing that when we use technology with autistic children, it really can help them to express themselves much better. I think the same way work with typical developed children as well. When I think about my own childhood, I think all children have this artistic heart, but not all children have the good fine motor skill to manipulate those objects. Like I'm not good at fine motor skills. Like if you ask me to use this brush to paint something, even if in my mind I want to draw a line, I probably cannot. And I see the limitation of motor skills, especially among young children. It's a huge variation of motor skill, and such a limitation of motor skill really can, can make some expressive idea, or expressing idea difficult for children. For example, like even if they want to draw an elephant, and suddenly, after just start drawing a line and they realize they couldn't, they may just give up, right? Even though they do have a wonderful thing in their mind, they do want to express, but because of such limitation, they just stop. And that actually create additional, challenge for teachers as well. So go back to what you just said about this, accessibility to those skills. I think that also something typically trip our teachers is, for example, in that scenario of having this art activity, some teacher may plan an art activity to introduce the concept of, a safari, for example, like elephant. Like they want children to draw an elephant so they can talk about jungle or talk about Africa or talk about the safari experience. But then when teachers realize some children cannot draw a straight line, and then teachers' attention got distracted. It got derailed from their original goal. They suddenly becomes now I need to help this child draw a straight line. And then this teaching goal got disturbed in this process of doing the activities. So what you say about the technology and how it will support teachers' teaching is really meaningful. Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, the role of technology has always been to help support people express themselves. Like, if I'm writing, I don't write by hand because my writing can't keep up with how, quickly I'm trying, like I'm thinking of things. So typing is
Yes,
way
yes.
faster.
Hmm.
I heard of one of my friends has a 5-year-old who's, just learning how to write letters and that sort of thing. And she was using a voice recording tool because
Hmm.
she couldn't write, like she wanted to express, I love my mom, but
Hmm.
she couldn't write that in the time that she could like keep that thought in her head. And so she's like,
Yes.
well, it's gonna take too long to write. So instead, I'm just gonna write, I love mom.
Mm.
But using this technology to help like accelerate her
Hmm.
thinking process or record her thinking process so that she could get actually through it,
Hmm.
helped her to actually develop that skill better. And just
Hmm.
like this case with the safaris, like say students are like, well, I want to create this scene with an elephant and a lion and an antelope and like all these sorts of things. They might have all those ideas, and by the time they finish trying to draw an elephant, the rest of it's
They're
gone.
done. Yes. Yes. I think that's the really an important thing to think about. And that's the challenging part, even when we prepare our teachers, you know. Um, one thing that our teachers and even us, the instructors, find difficult to do is to find the sweet spot in the classroom because you have 20 kids in a classroom, right? And then they have different skill sets and there is variations among them as for who can draw a straight line and who can actually draw a elephant, right? So it is challenging that if we only focus on the technical part of the skill, like whether you can draw a line, um, we actually miss the most important part of our education is to, make children experience their power of creation. And in the end, sometimes I ask my students, like, okay, so you did this activity very well. All the kids draw something along with you, but whose picture does it really belong to? Is it children create the picture, reflect their thinking, or are they just create a picture, reflect your thinking? Like lots of time when we think about, oh, let's do this activity, but is it the activity really generate something for you? Because you have this expectation everybody's supposed to draw this kind of elephant. Or are you give the power to children so they actually can personally create something that unique to themselves and mean something for themselves, right?
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite ways of using technology is to sort of um, like super speed those skills that might take too long to leave
Mhm.
space for that creativity part. So if you spend 20 minutes trying to draw an elephant, you're not going to
Mhm.
get to think of how do I make this elephant my own. But if you start to draw an elephant and you get sort of a template, then you
Mhm.
have the rest of the 10 minutes or whatever it is to
Mhm.
think about how do I make this my own.
I think by playing with ChatGPT, we can actually see that in action. Of course on TikTok videos show up. I bet many of you already watched that. There's some video showing people can create children's book by using ChatGPT, and they can also use Dolly, another generative AI for picture, to create pictures with the text, and then create their own children's book, right? And then that really got me to think is, like that is the really important experience of creation if we make that activity available to children because when we're in early childhood classroom lots of teachers allow children to have their own book of writing so children actually draw the pictures and then ideally hope children can create their own story but one time that activity had a really nice start, but then abandoned along the way just because of that technical limitation we just talked about, right? Like on the first day, children were so hype on that, and everybody like so attentive, write their name, this is my book, and draw the first picture. And over time, the interest start to dissipate, related to how difficult the plot will look like. Children also understand that is if they create something really complex in their story, that means they're gonna write more, they're gonna draw more complex picture. So children then will becomes like, oh no, I'm not going to create it even more complex. I'm just going to stop right here. My story only have 2 pages. One tree and one cloud. That will be it. But the reason for them losing interest is because of this difficulty of technical skills. But like if we can utilize AI, right? Have this group activity every day for like a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes or so, and encourage children to continue building on what they have over time. So today, what is your keywords? Like what are the vocabulary? What are the idea in your mind? So yesterday you had this tree in this beautiful weather, blue sky, white cloud, this girl waiting in front of tree. So today, what's gonna happen? And allow children to talk about, provide some vocabulary, and then we put into ChatGPT, put into the Dolly, and to see what will show up, and then ask the children, "Oh, look, this is what show up. Is there something else you want to add to them?" So in that process, we give children opportunity to personalize the outcomes, to add their voice, and over time, so we can see this nice collaboration that technology provide the technical skill, and we also embrace children's own identity and their voice in this process of creation.
Yeah. And it's important to not lose track of developing those technical skills for the student as well. So, I mean, part of the reason that you have students write things is so that they can practice actually writing and practice those fine motor skills. But
Mhm,
as you said, you don't want the difficulty of that task to get in the way of their creativity. And so
mhm,
having a time where you're not using AI or not using technology and you're practicing those skills, and then, maybe that's a planning stage where they're writing out what they want their story to be. But then, they're not limiting the complexity because they know next they're going to be able to use technology to help them actually implement it. And it's not going to be this daunting task
mhm.
just because they've created this complex story that they want to tell.
Yes, that's wonderful. Um, and do you have any recommendation for teachers in terms of their professional needs? Like when we think about creativity for teaching, like when teachers are planning lessons or when they are preparing classroom environment, where are the places where we can ask AI for help to make the lesson planning and classroom environment arrangement easier?
Yeah, and I hesitate to give any specific recommendations right now just because the landscape is evolving so rapidly. So,
Mhm,
probably tools like Dolly to create pictures or ChatGPT to create text.
mhm.
I don't remember what that drawing one is called, but like the AI space is evolving so rapidly right now that if you do a Google search or if you ask ChatGPT for like, I need an AI to help me do this sort of task, you can probably find a tool
Wow,
that will
is
help
that
you.
right? Didn't Google just release the new AI tool they say is even better than ChatGPT?
Yeah, so they have their version of ChatGPT is called Bard. I forget what the underlying system is like. So ChatGPT is based on the GPT system. I
Hmm.
forget what Bard is based on, but they just upgraded their version, and that's going to be part of Google search
Hmm.
very quickly, just like GPT is part of Bing, so that your search results are much more AI powered than they currently are.
Okay. Yeah, but I think still, like, even though we are using technology to create, we also need to be attentive whether something we create or something they generate, technology generate, has bias or stereotypes information, like we discussed last episode. Because it was so funny, like just after our episode, last times, and one of our colleagues posted a picture, so he was a math education researcher. So he just put in the prompts to ask ChatGPT to create a picture, kind of like a poster that he can use in his research project, kind of showing people like this is math education. And then it shows up with a picture with an Asian math teacher, female Asian math teacher, look like really unhappy and point to all kind of weird number, and some of those are not number even. Some like a random symbols that does not make any sense. And then in front of her will be those, students seems like not interested in math at all. And then I was like, well, all of those are stereotypical thinking about math. Asian good at math, and then people do not like math, and math is only about number and symbol. I think, but probably that's the existing data online that we have. Probably it's the existing data online have those stereotypical information. So when we generate something, adults, like teacher and parents, we still need to play an active role, make sure that children are being, guided in this, information era, digital era, to make them be aware that we have to be think about our assumptions and bias when having this new information coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's always important to have the human in the technology loop and, you
Mhm.
know, adding that humanity element of not just, because the stereotypes come from like this is the most available example that you can see. And so that's what it's going to pick. But
Yeah.
that's not necessarily what you want to perpetuate.
Yeah. In terms of the role of creativities, Dr. M, what is your like I'm not saying like you are the future teller or something, but what is this trend going to when we said more and more uh professional specialized software become accessible to everyone? What do you see the trend going to, and what is the role of creativity in education, from your perspective, in in the future?
Yeah, and so I think the role of technology in education is it's just going to widen people's skill sets. But like I said, there's still going to be a space for experts in those places. Like just because someone can use ChatGPT to create a story and Dolly to put pictures with it doesn't mean that that's going to be a better product than someone who
Mhm,
specializes in creating children's stories and knows like how to express morals and how to express character and values
mhm,
and all those sorts of things.
yeah,
That's not going to be inherent in the product that like
mhm,
ChatGPT would create.
mhm,
So there's still always going to be that role for specialization.
mhm,
However, you can have sort of an amateur level, wider access to tools that allow you to um, be a little bit more varied in how you want to express yourself.
So I think from that perspective, really the power of teachers in this process is teachers understand the developmental, needs of children, right? Um, Technology does not. Uh, for example, like even if we can use ChatGPT, use keywords, and Dolly create a story text, they may use the vocabulary that's not appropriate for young children to learn, or they may be missing the plot that's emotionally necessary for children to experience, right? And that only can be understood by teachers. So I think our specialized area of teaching really has a lot of element related to human interaction, related to human development that cannot be substituted by technology. That we really have to we interact with children, we know individual children's uh, preference, their hobby, their passion, their motivation, so that we can provide more personalized support and instructions. And that part really cannot be um cannot be alternated by the technology. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why I think teachers are not going to be replaced by AI, is
Mhm,
because AI is not good at those sorts of things. However, it
mhm.
can, just like with the students, it can offload some of the tasks that, they're more routine or whatever and
Mechanical. Yeah.
allow you to spend more of that time developing a personal relationship with a student to
Mhm,
personalize feedback and that sort of thing. And so I really think it's going to be a good tool for teachers to do the parts of the job that they like and
Mhm.
offload or automate the parts that they don't necessarily care that much about.
Yeah, and then lots of time it's really not about, I think the technology and human interaction is more problem solving focused. you know Even if it can be personalized for users needs or technology users needs. One good example is if we a lot of standardized testing or training module online right now, like based on your learning progress, they can create a personalized learning plan for you or create this personalized question pool for you so that can better facilitate you to learn. But that kind of facilitation is pretty problem-solving focused. Either or, like if you didn't do this, let me try this for you, right? But when we think about the human interaction, a lot of it is not problem-solving focus, right? It's a lot of emotional focus. Just like when we are having this online module training, we don't expect technology or website to say good job. Like even if they say good job, we don't care. Like you don't really care when computer tell you good job, or have a great day. Like, going just like, it really doesn't, talk to me, like talk to my soul. It doesn't talk to my soul. However, like in classroom, you can really see the hugs of teacher has a powerful impact on children. When a child is crying, looks upset, the teacher does not need to say anything. Just go there and hug. That's it. And that's not problem solving. That's really just about emotional support. And with that kind of emotional connection, children can create something unique that reflect their own characters, reflect their own emotion. Because when we think about expressing ideas, that all come from the emotion part of human being, right? Yes. I think we had this wonderful session today, talk about the creativity. I think since we talk about the emotion, our next episode will really focus on the comfort zone, right? And there's so many new technology tools coming up, and some of us may not feel confident to use those tools or to learn how to use this tool. Then how can we cope with that kind of stress? And what are the strategies we can use when we, confront the very different kind of tool in our daily life? So we will continue our conversation in our next episode. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you next time.